Buenos días, bienvenidos. Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Por las dudas, el horario, bienvenidos, bienvenidas a todos. Esta es la segunda jornada del Foro de Innovación para el Aprendizaje y el Desarrollo, el FIAD 2022. Vamos a empezar con una intensa jornada la de hoy, así que todos invitados a sumarse a través de las redes sociales, ya que en esta jornada vamos a tener la oportunidad de escuchar a especialistas reconocidos globalmente, como ayer, por supuesto, participar en workshops, acceder a casos también y a buenas prácticas. Como les decía, los invitamos a todos a seguir participando activamente en todas nuestras redes sociales. Vamos a agradecer. Vamos a hacer un especial reconocimiento a los sponsors que han hecho posible este evento internacional. Tenemos a nuestros sponsors Oro, Cypher Learning, ICISI, Tecnológico de Monterrey, Universidad Europea, Zoom, Unió Consorci Formació. Tenemos nuestros sponsors Plata, BeChange, Cornerstone, Desire to Learn, GoFluent, el Instituto Chileno Norteamericano, iSpring, LearnLight, Performance, Smalltech, Speaks, Universidad Blas Pascal y Universidad El Bosque. También sponsors Bronce, Acredita y Universidad de Manresa. Los media partners que también acompañan, ORH, Opino, Infonegocios. Sobre las redes sociales te invitamos a compartir la experiencia. El hashtag de este año en FIAD en redes sociales es hashtag FIAD 2022 y podés seguir también las redes sociales del evento en Instagram @fiad.foro, en LinkedIn y Facebook nos buscas como FIAD Foro de Innovación para el Aprendizaje y el Desarrollo. Comenzamos, ¿estamos listos? Vamos a iniciar este bloque de Case Speakers acompañados por sponsors Oro, el Tecnológico de Monterrey, y nuestro sponsor Plata, iSpring. Así que le damos la bienvenida de esta manera a Masha Iberchit, fundadora CEO de Think Beyond Group. Bienvenida, Masha, a FIAD.
Hello, can you see me and can you hear me? Hello? Yes, okay, wonderful. So, welcome everybody, and let me start with some facts. Only 1 out of 6 participants in the training applies what they have learned. 4 of 6 give it a try, but do not follow through. And 1 will not even start. That is what Robert Brinkerhoff found out in his study. Why is that? Because many trainings still do not focus on how to transfer learning into real life. But if we focus on transfer effectiveness, we can reach this result. Up to 5 out of 6 participants will apply learnings in a sustainable way. In the next 20 minutes, I will share a scientifically proven approach how to move from this effectiveness of your learning events to that effectiveness of your learning events. And this approach are the 12 levers of transfer effectiveness by Dr. Ina Weinbauer. My name is Masha Ibeschitz. For more than 20 years, I am working globally in the field of learning and development, being always driven by making an impact. I am the founder of the Think Beyond Group, an international collective that serves organizations on leadership development, and I am the co-author of What Makes Trainings Really Work. Ina Weinbauer invited me to enrich her science with my practically proven tools. And out of this collaboration with Ina, I will share with you the powerful 12 levers of transfer effectiveness and why so many people around the globe are passionate about it. A bit more precisely, after this 20-minute session, 3 things should have happened. First, you should know more about the research on what makes training really work and the 12 levers to manage transfer effectiveness. Second, you should have received at least 2 practical tools to promote transfer. You can also download them via QR code, and you will find the QR code on our slides. After these 20 minutes, you should also know exactly what you are going to do next to further increase the positive impact of your learning and development events. So let's go. But before we dive into the topic, I would love to learn a bit more about you. And therefore, I have prepared a question for you, which we will work on by using Mentimeter. May I ask you to go with your phone on Mentimeter and answer the question? Because the question is, cross your heart. How well is your organization doing in terms of training transfer? Do you say we achieve results that are both measurable and sustainable? Or do you say, I think there is still some improvement potential? Or do you say transfer is clearly our weak spot? So let me come a little bit closer and let me check that. How do your answers look like? Okay, we see the first answers entering, right? Okay, great. Some people say, okay, everything's fine. Yeah. We see other answers coming. And we thank you also for your honesty, because we ask this question around the globe several times. And if you feel like answer 2 or answer B and C are more relevant for you, then I think you're in good company, because transfer is still a topic to be developed. So let me go back. And also Dr. Ina Weinbauer was facing this situation when she learned about the Brinkerhoff study. In her case, she decided to find out what it takes to make trainings effective. Her plan was to find the holy grail of transfer effectiveness. However, she quickly realized that she wasn't the only one. As you can see here on that slide, transfer researchers are at work already for more than 100 years, and they found more than 100 determinants. So if you look at that slide, that's already a lot, right? Actually, too much to really apply. And some of these elements are great for scientists, but not of much practical help. So let me give you an example. Let's take one of the factors from the trainee area. Yeah, the factor cognitive abilities. So basically, intelligence. Researchers have found that intelligent people transfer more than others. So what could we apply from that? Should we send participants to an intelligence test before each training to decide if they should attend or not? That would be strange, right? So here's what was done to come to an effective approach. Dr. Weinbauer dropped all the factors that cannot or hardly be influenced or controlled by HRD professionals. And guess what? This is how we ended up with only 12 levers. And they are called levers because each of them creates a leverage effect that helps to maximize the impact of people development measures. Here they are, as you can see. In order to create the biggest impact on the transfer effectiveness in people development, we find 3 relevant areas: trainees, training design, and the organization, meaning the environment in which people development is provided. Some of the levers might look familiar to you. Others might sound new to you. For now, let me share one lever that is addressed very often around the globe, and it's called support from supervisors. So if you are here in the role as a leader who wants to support his team's development in order to enhance your organization's success, this is especially for you. If you enjoy other roles on transfer effectiveness and you know some of those supervisors who should listen closely. Maybe you want to share some of the contents that I share with you later. So let's have a look on a study. In this study, they took a closer look to a no improvement group, a group in which nothing had changed following the leadership development program in this organization. They compared it with a high improvement group of the same leadership program that had made big changes in performance, such as their processing speed, sales, cycle times, and so on. Now, I'd just like to show you the three biggest differences between the two groups. Just remember, they were attending the exactly same development program. So, the first difference is supervisor support. The high improvement group had significantly more frequent one-on-one meetings between the trainee and the supervisor, where they discussed how the trainee could best apply what he has learned in the program. The second big difference was, guess what? Supervisor support. In the high improvement group, the trainees said that their supervisor has the attitude that training has a positive impact and is important and valuable. And the third big difference, make an educated guess. Supervisor support. In the high improvement group, many of the people involved said that their supervisor actively recognizes and rewards their improvement. So, supervisor support is nearly always among the top reasons for success or failure. So, how can we ensure that supervisors support, promote, and demand the application of what trainees have learned? First, dear leaders out there, understand and respect. You are important. You have an impact. No matter if you've been aware of it or not, when it comes to development, you had an influence for the good or for the bad. Second, when do leaders get involved? When it's made easy for them. How can we do that? We can offer them tools and measures that are easy to use and that are seen by the leaders as something supporting instead of time-consuming additional work. So, small steps, easy interventions guide here the way. Instead of a pre-training meeting with a time-consuming form to fill in, just have a coffee to go with your employee before the training. I also remember this one program that we delivered at some place on this planet, let's put it that way. Back then, the leaders of this organization were, let's say, very much at the beginning of their willingness to support transfer. And the HRD told us that it is not likely that the leaders would really be accountable to invite their team members who should attend the program to such a conversation. So there we had to do another step to encourage all stakeholders. When we did the kickoff with the participants, we told them that it was their proactive task to address and invite their leaders for a quick coffee conversation using the questions you see on the slide. You see here two very simple checklists with only a few questions that you can go through together with your team member. These checklists are also available for you in the download section. Make it easy. Doing a small thing like this is already highly effective. Studies show that even a 15-minute conversation like this significantly increases transfer success. Never mind if it is triggered by the leader or the participant. And third, supervisors deserve to understand what's in it for me. What benefit or payoff do I get as a manager if I support transfer? To start this journey and help the leaders to commit, we developed another tool, which I will share with you now. It is what we call the self-check for managers. It helps leaders to reflect if they already get the maximum out of the trainings their team members attend. It is a self-reflection and done voluntarily by the leaders. Just a 5-minute action, not more. So going through this self-check, leaders reflect about items like, I have communicated very clearly that I consider this training useful and meaningful and that it is important he or she attends. Please rate yourself on a scale from absolutely yes to absolutely no. As many people do, also leaders love scoring. So by the end of the self-check, you get a score that gives you feedback on how well do you as a leader already make use out of the training program as a leader. Here is what the leaders learn about themselves. When you rate below 35 points, it says, with your managerial approach, you risk wasting both your team members' time and your organization's money. I mean, that's quite tough, right? On the other hand, if you score very high, it says, you are a true role model when it comes to getting the most out of a training for the organization, your team, and the attendee. With that tool, I also remember a quite exciting experience with one of our customers. I've already been surprised a number of times by how effective this simple self-check is. For instance, we had participants from a manufacturing industry in Latin America who've told us, our manager didn't just do the self-check for himself, he suddenly brought it along to the pre-training meeting and asked us as employees how we rated him on these criteria. He wanted our feedback, which was absolutely amazing. One of our customers even used this self-check to show young talents how seriously they take development. So we invite you to make up your mind if there are some gold nuggets you want to take with you. But let's have another look on another lever. A goal without a plan is just a wish. That's what Antoine de Saint-Exupéry said. Therefore, let's have a short look on the lever of transfer planning. When it comes to the end of a great training program, trainees typically look like this guy, right? You might have seen this guy. He leaves the training with a big backpack full of the great stuff he learned in this learning event. And what might be his feelings or thoughts? Something like, I need to review all the stuff from training again and think about where and how I can apply these things. Unfortunately, we know that this is going to happen, right? Why? Because for most people, there is no time for it. So what we need to do is the following. We need trainees who leave the room with a lightweight backpack that only contains the necessary information and some concrete finished plan of how to apply it. The question is, how can we pack the backpack in a transfer-friendly way? Research gives us a clear and convincing answer to that. So let's take one more trip to the field of research. This time, sports research, and to a study with people who tried to do more sports. The researchers randomly assigned 248 adults to one of three groups, right? Every group got a special intervention. But here are first the results. So, in group 1, 38% exercise. In group 2, 35%. But in group 3, an incredible 91% of the participants did. What did they give them that makes such a big difference? You will be amazed on how easy and simple the secret is. So let's have a look. So group 1 was the control group. They got to read an unrelated text. Group 2 was the motivation group. they got information on the benefits of exercising. As you can see, this motivational information did not have so much effect either. But what was the task for group number 3, who exercised nearly 3 times as often as the other groups? It is so easy and trivial. They were simply asked to complete one single sentence, which was, during the next week, I will do at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on Monday at 5 p.m. at the gym. Sentences like this are called implementation intentions or mini plans. Simply formulating an intention nearly triples the chances to really doing it. Whatever we want to do or apply, if we formulate an intention, like I will do these 20 minutes, yabba, 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 it helps, it nearly triples the probability that you really will do it. Scientists even call those mini plans baby steps. And that also applies for our training participants. If we want them to apply what they have learned in training, we need to make sure that they make an action plan and formulate concrete intentions. So, to maximize the lever of transfer planning, we suggest 3 steps. First, reserve 10 to 20% of each learning event for transfer planning. Do not only plan objectives, but also specific actions. And third, use baby steps. Make it easy and effective. And maybe your next step is to visit the download area to get the tools and the transfer postcard, which summarizes the 12 levers of transfer effectiveness I shared with you just now. You also find there how you can connect with us here in Latin America as your transfer coaches to overcome your specific roadblocks as you deploy this tool in your institutions or organizations. In Latin America, Nereo Rivera and Gia Elena Gutierrez are your transfer coaches. If you need immediate support with this, or you want to get certified as a transfer coach or designer yourself. In case you feel like, hey, Masha, I'm stuck. Can you help me out? Or, hey, Masha, I tried something and guess what? This turned out greatly. Just drop a note on LinkedIn or email. We are transfer enthusiasts and we love to learn. We love to learn, hear, and share your stories and develop together with you. And if you're curious to learn more how things work out in real life, join tomorrow my colleague Gia Elena Gutierrez at June 9th, 5:40 p.m. on a case study with our dear customer, Gebauer and Griller. And until then, let's make transfer effectiveness easy because it rocks. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Maya. Thank you, increíble, cuánta pasión. Muchas gracias por compartir esa experiencia. Un placer escucharte. Ahora le damos la bienvenida a nuestro segundo speaker, a Alan Bostakian. Esta conferencia se titula Hacer universidades corporativas, abordar los problemas de las empresas de manera integral, y va a ser presentada por nuestro sponsor oro, Cypher Learning, y nuestro sponsor plata, Instituto Chileno Norteamericano. Esta conferencia, al igual que la de Maya, son presentaciones que son en inglés con traducción simultánea, así que bueno, les pedimos que seleccionen justamente en el margen superior derecho de la pantalla la opción más conveniente para cada uno, conferencia en inglés o el canal con la traducción simultánea en español. Ahora sí, bienvenido Alan Afiar.
Okay, hello everyone. Let's start a presentation about ensuring the strategic alignment that corporate universities promise. Here you see a summary of my background, but I don't want to take your time for it. I just want to mention that I've helped multiple large organizations in the development of their corporate universities, as well as the related change management efforts for development of their university. And I've also developed processes and QA models for corporate universities. One of the typical differences that we see between most traditional training departments and the established corporate universities is the better alignment of corporate university with the parent organization's strategic plan, preferred direction, and vision, all of these alignments. In our journey today, first, I'll talk about the definition of corporate university and its objectives, then about the benefits. After that, about the elements of good corporate university design that ensure the promised strategic alignment, the main area of this presentation. And finally, I briefly talk about corporate university blueprint that can help you in designing a good corporate university. Today, we want to talk about corporate university. As I mentioned, the important thing to remember is that today's topic is about an entity inside the organization. Similar to when we create a new department or a new branch or agency within the organization. It's not about only a new training program. It's not about academic university that accepts students into degree programs. We're talking about a corporate entity, a part of corporation. One of the typical differences that we see between most traditional training departments and established corporate university is the better alignment of corporate universities with the parent organization's strategic plan, preferred direction, and vision. The first corporate university was created by General Motors, GE. Now there are thousands of corporate universities in the world, and some of the famous ones are McDonald's Hamburger University, Apple University, Disney University, and Boeing Leadership Center, many, many more. There are many definitions for corporate university, and I just prefer this one. Corporate university is an entity as well as a management intervention that takes the organization into a new, robust, and a sustained phase. I like this definition because it considers sustainability, and it also looks at the corporate university from a transformation point of view. A corporate university should be a strategic entity that helps its parent company in achieving the goal, obviously. It should be strategically aligned with the parent or company's objectives. We will talk about that because it's the umbrella for many activities. It's a hybrid entity that brings together many functions. The corporate university is accountable to the parent enterprise. So it's not separate totally. It's accountable. It also means the corporate university structure should be operated with efficiency, purpose, value. It's not something that we just create to have something nice. So what's the difference between a corporate university and academic universities, which is more familiar? Some of the fundamental goals, which means providing instruction, facilitating R&D, research and development, and also providing recognition are kind of same. However, how to manage them? Their strategic goals, the processes involved, and the developmental objectives are different. Let's have a quick comparison between academic university and corporate university. In academic university, we have admission of students, but in corporate university, we have assessment of employees' skill. In academic university, we have qualifications with pre-designed curriculums. However, in corporate university, we have lifelong learning and professional development with dynamic curriculums. Academic universities are kind of marking oriented, based on marks, A, B, C, D, versus corporate university, which is job application oriented. What is good for the actual job? In academic university, the main focus is on the success of student. But in corporate university, the focus is on both organization and employee success, both of them. Now let's see what are some of the differences between traditional training approach and a corporate university. So what's the difference between a training department and a corporate university? That's the question many people ask. Corporate university is proactive. Means it's based on a forward-thinking approach that prepares us for the changes or prepares us for problems. And it's a strategy oriented. It's based on strategy. But the traditional training approach has been mostly reactive to the noticed workplace issues, and has been problem oriented. Corporate university has long-term and a strategic, considering big picture, the strategic goals versus short-term and operational goals of most training departments. We're talking about reality, not whatever we advertise for training departments, but the reality. It covers the corporate university, all stakeholders, including employees, suppliers, vendors, organizational partners, even customers, and focuses also on organizational development, but training departments typically cover employees only focus on employees. A well-designed corporate university is doing its mandate like a business within a business. So it has accountability, purpose, efficiency, all of these things. And they have business plan. Traditional training approach is focused on operational mission, typically only with project plans. In corporate university structure, we share partnership and accountability within many stakeholders. But in a training department, we have exclusive ownership of training programs for the training department. Corporate university can have a highly established higher education and certification or recognition role. Training departments have no or very limited certification or recognition role. Corporate university programs are integrated. The entity provides the right learning package for the right person in the right place at the right time. But in many training departments, we have isolated and event-based programs. Corporate university contributes in building brand. They can make the organization the employer of the choice and create competitive advantages. Traditional training approach typically has no serious or effective involvement in building brand for the parent organization. Corporate universities are established for a variety of reasons. It depends on the organization. Here I want to share some main benefits with you, but it's not an exclusive list. Each organization can get customized or additional benefits from corporate university. But let's talk about the typical benefits. Corporate universities can drive high-level strategies and align research and training objectives with the strategic plans, the main topic that we have in this presentation. Corporate university helps the strategic initiatives meet their objectives. They help drive leadership potentials in the organization and making it ready for business challenges. It helps in advancing leadership competencies, helping middle leadership, middle managers team understand the strategic direction of the parent organization, its importance, and how to be engaged in that. The corporate universities support change management and improve sustainability of the change impacts. Corporate university helps staff to adopt changes more quickly. We will also have higher realization rate. What is realization? That means delivering on the change project's promises, what we promise for the change. They also create a culture where change management point of view is a norm in the organization culture. So people understand it. The support can also include advancement of change management skills for anyone responsible for or impacted by the changes. They help identifying and measuring the learning gaps. They promise a common culture, values, and loyalty in the company, in the parent organization company, I mean. They drive quality and innovation to remain competitive. It's important. The corporate university implements continuous improvement processes. They help retain and promote employees. Why? How? By offering the right succession planning. Corporate university also can reduce the need for external stakeholders because they help developing capabilities and competencies internally. They establish learning culture. They increase organizational performance by providing the right development opportunities. They provide quality programs by centralizing organization-wide resources and having consistency, which is so important. They integrate processes for vendor selection and vendor management. They monitor investment in learning and development aligned with the strategic goals to make sure it's aligned. They perform a big picture needs assessment and competency assessment to identify all the requirements. They establish university partnership with academic sector, with academic universities for offering some customized programs or certifications to the employees. Corporate university can offer comprehensive orientation program for the new employees. They offer centralized and integrated knowledge management capability. Of course, they integrate research and development, R&D, and L&D, learning and development. Corporate university advance the organizational brand. We already talked about that in previous slide. They transform separate and disconnected courses into integrated curriculum. Considering all the mentioned benefits, having a corporate university helps us to advance the utilization of human resources, which is critical to the execution of the strategic plan for that alignment that we talk about, and improve the organizational agility to manage the related initiatives efficiently and quickly. The most effective strategy to have executive buy-in is the alignment of organizational strategic goal. So this alignment is important. Contribution to branding is also important for winning in the talent war with other organizations, because all organizations are kind of fighting with each other to attract best talents out there. Certification partnership with academic university is another competitive advantage, because people like to go to organizations that provide all those opportunities. Okay, let's talk about the plan elements to ensure a strategic alignment of corporate university. Vision and mission. The purpose, vision, and mission statement for the corporate university should be aligned with the plan organization strategy. That's important. The governance. Choose the member of the corporate university governance committee who believe the overall organizational strategy. To have more chance of alignment, this entity can report to the head of organization, highest possible. Objectives. Define the corporate university objectives in a way that is aligned with organizational strategic goals. For example, the impact of corporate university on all stakeholders. Business strategy. I already mentioned that. Corporate university should act like a business. Therefore, it should have a business strategy aligned with the parent company's strategic plan. That's the key. Parent structure. Where in the parent organization the corporate university will be located is also a factor in its importance of achieving the strategic objectives. Product and services, the alignment of learning and coaching products that corporate university provide and other services such as certification, consulting, research, all of these are important. Competency framework, the assessment framework and the competencies need to be aligned with the organization's long-term goals. To meet those goals, we need competencies that help us to meet the higher goals of the organization. And having a communication plan, that also needs alignment. Milestones. The important milestones for each phase of the corporate university development should be based on defined high-level milestones of the parent organizations. So if you want to achieve something by the end of the year, corporate university should help in that journey. Partnership. Who will be the partners or strategic alliances? That should be based on parent organization's priorities. Stakeholders. Defining internal and external stakeholders and their interests. Have a plan for a stakeholder assessment. Marketing. Your plan to market the corporate university. So when you want to tell, we have a corporate university and these are the benefits, and the vision, defining its brand, even designing its logo and the desired competitive advantage message, all must play their role in the alignment. We need to consider developmental phases for corporate university, including the sequences that are all aligned with the overall timeline that the parent organization need. Operational model of the corporate university means how corporate university would be managed and operated, the actual corporate university, and the high-level overview of the workflow all need to fulfill the alignment. And finally, KPIs, performance matrix, evaluation strategy, how we would gather data, and how we would report. The KPIs for corporate university should be based on desired business outcomes of the parent organization. That's another key element. Okay, now let's see how we can design a corporate university that aligns with the strategic goals of the parent organization. Why we're talking about this? Because some of the organizations just rename the training department and call it corporate university. That's a fake corporate university. It's not a corporate university. It's just renaming the training department. We really need to design a corporate university in a way that it is a corporate university. The corporate university blueprint is one of the architecture tools for managing all stages of development of corporate university, creation of a corporate university. And it can be used to help the project management efforts for the project of creating a corporate university. So it's a kind of base for project management, how to create a corporate university. This blueprint is developed by Global Association of Corporate Universities and Academies and provides action-focused details and accelerate the creation of corporate university. So let's review the elements, the decision stands, they call it decision stands, the elements that are covered in this blueprint. Design corporate university strategy, including strategic direction, policies, how corporate university would support vision and mission of the parent company, and how we want to interact with the center of excellence, if we have one. Management development programs, including leadership development platforms and programs. It also covered the engagement of leadership team. Supporting learning infrastructure for all roles, managers, supervisors, coaches, others, all, and include a plan for advancement of the required competencies for each group. Standard and best practices. This is about regulatory standards, industry best practices based on your industry, environment or sustainability best practices, these kind of things. Management and administration. It's about personnel resourcing, contracts, customer selection, customer service, how we want to do that, and program management. Knowledge process and systems, including database selection, procedures, access to that, related research, all of these. Management intelligence, including the corporate university library and other electronic sources, how we want to manage that. Internal and external marketing function, marketing to executives of the company, marketing to managers or other audiences, marketing to partners and external bodies. We want to sell the idea. Also covers how we engage employees to ensure higher adoption when we have changes, transformation, all of these projects. Quality assurance systems and procedures. The QA models, the external intellectual partnerships are all part of this section of the blueprint. And finally, data protection and security, which is about access protocols, as well as security and safety, all of these around the corporate university. Okay. Some people say, oh, it's hard to create a corporate university. And most of them provide one of these reasons, one of these three reasons why it's challenging to develop or create a corporate university. These three challenges that you see on the screen. So I want to just talk about them and just provide a tip how to manage that. Budget or investment. Then they say, oh, we have problem with the budget. Okay, for that, your corporate university can be funded through enterprise allocations or by charging business units. You can charge business units by providing services to them internally. Developing a compelling business case would help us here. Calculate the return on investment, ROI, this famous ROI is helpful. Creating a corporate university obviously needs either a cost or investment in the organization. An alternative to ROI, if ROI calculation is hard for you, the alternative can be return on expectations, or ROE. ROE is about creating and showing the organization value. What kind of organization values this corporate university is going to provide? Remember, who is defining the values? Stakeholders. So you need to ask them to be able to create a good draft message. The second one, if you are busy with day-to-day mandates, in that case, if that's your challenge, or that's how you see your challenge, it looks like corporate university is not a priority at your organization. Focus on presenting the gaps for your executives and try to visualize the future state, how future can be by having a corporate university, and what kind of new competitive advantages you can have by having a corporate university. That would be my tip for you if that's your challenge. The third one and the last one is if in your organization training and development is seen as kind of in a reactive style. It's not a surprise if many organizations use learning and development in a reactive way instead of proactive. You want to work on developing a culture that sees learning and development in a proactive manner. That takes time. It's not like this, but you need to start working on that. You can also focus on showing the benefits of developing capabilities and competencies for internally, for sustainability of your organization. That is going to be attractive to executives because they want to have sustainable organizations. So that can help you manage this challenge or obstacle. Thanks so much. Hope my presentation has been helpful in increasing your awareness about huge opportunities that we can have with corporate universities. Thanks again.
Muchas gracias, Alan. Gracias por tu presentación, gracias por tu predisposición. Súper interesante escucharte compartir tus conocimientos. Gracias. Vamos a seguir con la agenda FIAD y ahora es el momento de escuchar a Perttu Polen desde Finlandia. Va a hablar sobre nuevas habilidades y diálogo intergeneracional. Esta conferencia va a ser presentada por nuestros sponsors Oro, ICISI y la Universidad Europea. La conferencia de Perttu también va a ser en inglés con traducción simultánea, así que les repetimos, seleccionen en el margen derecho superior de la pantalla la opción más conveniente que crean, en idioma original, inglés, o para quienes prefieran la traducción simultánea al castellano. Bienvenida, Perttu, a FIAD.
Hey everybody, and thank you for the invitation to talk to you. Greetings from Finland. So I'm going to talk about intergenerational dialogue. Let me first put the slides on so you can follow something for you to look at as well. Just one quick second. I will put it right there. Okay. So let's start with the big picture, and go through some history. We can divide the world with a very big brush just to two eras. And the way and why I do this is because change has been very different for the last 30 years than what it has been before that. For thousands of years, for a very long time, pretty much forever we can remember, change has been linear. So from one person, if we wanted to tell them something new, we gave the information from one person to another person, who then gave it forward to a third person and a fourth person. And we were very much able to predict when the information kind of reaches certain areas or points. The information, travels only as fast as the horse can run. So the world in which we have lived has changed linearly, but also it has changed locally, meaning that if we invented something new, we were not aware of the people from the other side of the world. It was possible that they were doing something similar to us, but we did not know of them. So basically, the change happened in local communities. We had country lines, we had borders, we had geographical borders, we have language barriers that prevented us from kind of sharing the knowledge to all around the world. So for a very long time, change has been limited to linear and local change. Now, for the last 30 years, has the change been local anymore? Well, obviously not. It's global, right? Has the change been linear anymore? Well, no, it's now exponential. So from linear to exponential, from local to global. If something happens on the other side of the world, we hear about it in one day. It changes our everyday lives. Tomorrow, there's some analysis about it in the evening news. So this environment is very different from what we've always had before. And if we put these numbers together, I mean, thousands of years and just 30 years, which means that we have people that have had very different environments in which they have been brought up, if they are less than 30 versus before that. Now, how have we normally learned new skills or gotten new knowledge? Well, from our parents and from older people. So for centuries, fathers taught their sons and mothers taught their daughters and teachers taught students. And we had kind of a tradition that we give the general knowledge forward to the next generation. And we accumulated new information, generation by generation. But when the world changed, when the environment changed, there was no sense telling a teenager today how to use the rotatable landline phone or how to use the paper map or the phone book or how to rewind a cassette tape. There are a lot of skills that our parents and grandparents needed to have, but they can't give them forward anymore. Teenagers don't need these skills. And at the same time, the teenager and the young people, they can't ask for help from their parents either. Because if a 5-year-old asks, hey, grandma, what apps did you use when you were my age? The grandma can't answer that. She didn't have any. So she can't give this wisdom forward, right? Or if a teenager, a 15-year-old, let's say, asks from her, let's say, dad or mom, what did it feel like when you were bullied online as a teenager? The parents can't relate because they didn't have social media. They don't know anything of what it might feel like. So there is a danger that we grow apart because we have a very different environment in which we have been brought up. And basically what has happened now is that the new environment, new kind of surrounding, the young people took it for granted. That's natural for them. They didn't have to unlearn things, but rather they were very fast at learning, adapting to this era. Whereas their parents, they had to go through a lot of effort in order to unlearn and try to kind of understand these new technologies and how to use these devices and whatnot. And in a way, now the younger people have been faster at learning how to use, these new gadgets. And in a way, now the teenagers are telling their parents how to use the phone, right? They're teaching their grandparents how to use the laptop. Where do you find the settings and whatnot? So even though we have for a very long time given information from the older generation to the younger generation, now it has gone upside down. So the younger generation is giving the older generation fundamentally important knowledge, like how to use technology, without which you can't survive in the future. That's something everybody needs to know, the basics at least. So have we ever had a time in human history where it has been even possible that the younger generation is teaching, giving something important for their older generation, not the other way around? I don't think it has been possible before. So we are really living in unique times. And what this means is that we need to redefine expertise. We need to redefine many things, because it's possible that a 17-year-old, let's say we talk about a YouTuber, they are very good at, or with social media. So they know everything about the algorithms, what you should do or shouldn't do online. And they are very skilled with social media. I could say that this 17-year-old is therefore the best social media consultant in the country because they really know their stuff. But if I told somebody, an adult, that this 17-year-old is the best social media consultant in the country, they would maybe question me a bit because, come on, a 17-year-old doesn't look like an expert. No, 17-year-old doesn't sound like an expert. They don't use the words or terms that experts use. They don't wear the same clothes that experts wear. Nothing about them resembles or reminds us of an expert. So it might be a difficult thing for us to realize that this person, even though it doesn't fit the image we have, is still an expert. Because at the end of the day, they are the first Google generation, first, multimedia generation. So they might have some insights that nobody can have yet. So we need to understand that, mentoring and teaching and education goes both ways now. I was in Myanmar some time ago. I founded a nonprofit there with a friend, and I visited this friend who had this like 10-year-old girl who had her birthday coming up. And she told us that she wants, for her birthday gift, she wants a factory on a desk. And nobody realized, what is this girl talking about? What is this gift? Until one of us realized that she's talking about 3D printers, but she just doesn't know the name, the word for it. So we whispered to her, it's a 3D printer. And she ran to her mom, grandparents, and shouted, I want a 3D printer for my birthday. And the mom, the grandparents, they didn't know. They have never heard of 3D printers. They don't know what it is. And I was just witnessing this situation from afar. This girl is so enthusiastic, excited about something, but the parents can't answer or react in any way to this girl's emotion. They can't they don't know what it's talking about. So we really have to pay attention to the reality of the other. Older people have experience. They know what's important, what's essential in life, what doesn't change, what matters. But younger people have opinions and energy. They're willing to take risks, and they're very eager to do and try things. And we need both in the future. So we really need to have this cross-generational dialogue more, especially if we look at the global age structure around the world. How many people are less than 30 globally? Think for a second. What is your estimation? Because the right answer is that over half of the population, over 50%, is under 30. Now, depending on where you live, the age structure might be the opposite. For example, in Finland, we have more of the older people, the older generation. Those are the big, but not so much young people, which means that we might be in a bubble, depending on where you are, that we don't see the younger people that much. I mean, if it was a realistic expression of the world on the street, every other person coming to you should be under 30. And every fourth person should be under 14. When what I'm going after with the statistics is that in about 10 to 15 to 20 years, all of these people who are now less than 30, they are coming into the workforce, meaning they are overrepresented at work. There's so many of them. They're overrepresented as workers, as customers, as voters, as payers, meaning that if we want to be successful in anything, we have to take into consideration this age group, this demographic, because there's just so many of them, right? So they might have a different view on the world. Like they might have different opinions, or maybe different fears, maybe different things that they want from life. So let's make sure that we don't forget, just because we don't, or we might not see so many of them around us, we don't forget that there are so many of them. In a couple of years only, it's been estimated that half of the population, in a couple of years, has been born in the 21st century. Half of the population in the earth, on the earth. So I think this is mind-boggling. It's very exciting. So we have different strengths. You know, we have these people who have been born into a very different world than their parents, but we need the best from both of us. How many people are there when we make decisions that are less than 30? I don't think we see them too much. So we have to pay attention to this very, very much. Also, if you are over 30, it's a little joke for you, but you can think of it this way. If you remember the time before the internet, you will be among the last people ever in human history who remember the time before internet. Like people who don't remember the internet, like me or everybody after me, will be majority. So very soon, you know, people who were there before the internet, that's a rare thing. It's a very interesting thing. But anyway, what this means for us, what does it require from us, is a different mindset now. Traditional work life has gone something like this. We do certain things in certain order, and there are kind of rules or there are advice what you should do in order to get here or there. So we liked this. We had control. So we had so-called good or certain jobs, but this is not the case anymore. We know that micro-entrepreneurship is on the rise. We know that gig economy is getting more and more popular. Now that you can take online courses, you can re-educate yourself here or there, or if something happens in the world, there's a pandemic, it might change somebody's career completely, and for somebody else, nothing changes. So it's like this zigzag we're now doing. So everybody has a different personal, unique path that they will go on for the future, which means there are no guaranteed good or secure jobs. Nobody can tell you that this is a degree with which you will always survive, but rather there's much more uncertainty. Nobody can say what happens to this professional in 5 or 10 years, but you should still be able to be happy at the moment. So we need new kind of mindset. You know, 50 or 100 years ago, and before that in the history, it was very typical for the parents and the children to have the same job or even the same unique kind of path in life. So they were able to give advice what you should do and what you should try to achieve. But now if you think of parents and their children, if you have children, you can't compare their life paths to your own life path. They are not the same anymore. And we have to be very careful when we give advice. What worked for us might not work for them. One gentleman once told me that no matter what happens in the world, 2 things will never go away. People will always argue or fight with each other, and people will always get sick. So for lawyers and doctors, there's always work. And it sounded kind of logical, but where does the AI go first? Well, to these jobs. So even though it sounds like, hey, this is a secure thing, we have to be very careful when we look far ahead. You know, what are the kind of things that will remain? But we need kind of best of both worlds, as I said, experience from both. One last thing I want to give or leave to you is this question. What can I get from you that I can't get from Google? So Google, for example, can't look me in the eye. Google can't touch me on the shoulder. Google doesn't have body warmth. It's not present. Google has all the information in the world, but it doesn't care, right? It doesn't hug. It doesn't smile. It lacks all these human kind of elements. And in the future, we have to ask ourselves more and more, why would I go to school? What do I get from there that I can't get from online? Why do I go to this workplace? What do I get from there that I can't get online? And from each other as well. You know, we have options, we can search for information, but what can I get from you that I can't get from anywhere else? And those are the things we should be very good at. For example, if I ask a question, what's the most important, let's say, what's the capital of, let's say, the US? There's right and wrong answers, right? So this creates a situation in the classroom where somebody knows and they raise their hands and they feel good about themselves, you know. But then there are people who don't know and they try to avoid the eye contact with the teacher and they don't say anything. And then there are people who think they know, but they have a wrong answer. Just this question creates this tension, you know, who is good, who is bad, who knows, who doesn't. But if I change the question, what is the most important city in the US? You can say any city, but you have to tell me why. You can say Los Angeles because there's entertainment and it's well known. You can say New York because of the economics. You can say DC because of politics. It's all about the kind of perspective. So this is a question that you can't get an answer to from Google. Google hasn't experienced anything. It doesn't have an opinion the same way. So let's be careful to include people from different age groups together. Let's get experience from different life paths so that we can together look to the future, and let's ask questions from each other that only we humans can answer to, so that we really create connection and some wisdom for the future of work, future of education, future of jobs. But with this, I hope you get some ideas, and if nothing else, intergenerational dialogue is, I think, one of the most important things when it comes to future careers and how to kind of look forward from here. Let's not make the same mistakes that previous generations did. So thank you very much and have a great day. This is also my book if you're interested in learning more about the skills in the future. I just thought I'd put the picture of it. But anyway, you can contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Pertu. Gracias por esta participación, por la entrega. Un placer. Ahora continuamos con las conferencias. Vamos a recibir desde Estados Unidos a Pamela Bassey con la siguiente disertación. Aprendamos nuestro camino a través de él. Va a ser presentada por nuestro sponsor plata, Smalltech y BeChange. La conferencia de Pamela, al igual que las anteriores, tienen la opción de ser traducidas simultáneamente en el momento. Así que ya saben que en el margen derecho superior de su pantalla eligen la opción más conveniente, si el idioma original en inglés o la traducción simultánea en español. Así te damos la bienvenida a este FIAD 2022. Pamela, todo tuyo.
Greetings, all of you, my fellow learning leaders. My name is Pamela Bassey. I'm a lifelong learner. I love laughter, words, big ideas, and serving my community. And I'm excited to be here to speak with you today. In my current role as Chief Learning and Diversity Officer at the Kraft Heinz company, I have the privilege of driving a culture of continuous learning, bold creativity, and intellectual curiosity through our company's global learning and development strategy and initiatives, and amplifying the work that every Kraft Heinz employee does to create and nurture a diverse and inclusive workplace. My team has the privilege of making sure that every employee has what they need to be successful, that they know that learning can be their superpower, and a commitment to learning can help them to be great in their current roles and help them to grow great careers. I believe that if we can help people to create a learning practice, we help them learn how to learn. We help them learn what they need to learn. We help them to learn more quickly. And that serves a learner, whether they are reskilling or upskilling or intentionally or unintentionally disrupting their lives or careers for the purpose of advancement. What powerful words are included in the name of this conference? Innovación, aprendizaje, desarrollo, innovation, learning, growth. The times that we are all collectively facing right now demands that we innovate and learn and grow, that we think in new and different ways and embrace different mindsets. And a vibrant learning culture can enable all of these things, help us to do all of these things. First culture, then curriculum. First culture, then capabilities. Research from the Association for Talent Development, ATD, communicated in Lifelong Learning, the path to personal and organizational performance, states that only 31% of organizations have a culture of learning. Top companies are almost 5 times more likely than lower performers to have extensive learning cultures. And high performers are nearly 2 times more apt to say their learning function helps meet organizational business goals. The same study shares that robust cultures of learning are distinct hallmarks of organizations that consistently produce the best business results. Companies that lead the world's markets in revenue growth, profitability, market share, and customer satisfaction. The truth is, high-performing organizations require high-performing individuals. Learning is necessary on a personal and on a company level. Creating a powerful learning culture is not something that's just nice to have. It's something that is necessary to have. But the question follows, how do you do that? All of us are busy. We have concerns and deadlines and responsibilities. And funny enough, that makes us the perfect people to model what it looks like to really embrace being a lifelong learner, to model what it looks like as we create learning cultures in our own lives, the lives of our family, our communities, and our companies. We are the perfect people to show how to commit to a regular learning practice, to create a habit of learning every day. So I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you about our Kraft Heinz learning transformation story. In February of 2019, just after I joined Kraft Heinz, I created what I call a value proposition statement for learning and development. This value proposition was meant to be an agreement between my team and our colleagues across the organization, what we expect from them and what they could expect from us. We shared that our offerings enable each employee to learn like an owner so that they could execute with excellence in their current roles, accelerate their learning curve, and grow great careers. I want to focus for a moment on one piece of this value proposition, and that is the piece that says, learn like an owner. What does that mean? It means three things. It means we expect each employee to seek out high-impact learning experiences, commit to a learning practice, even if it's just a few minutes a day, and encourage others to do the same, whether you're encouraging your peers, you're a people manager encouraging your teams, or a senior leader influencing others across the company. Everyone is expected to contribute to that culture of learning. But the challenge really is how to do that. How do you show people how to own their own learning and development when everyone has so many competing priorities? What I did at Kraft Heinz was to start a campaign with two hashtags: learn like an owner and make time for learning. I made a promise that every day for a year, I would visit our corporate university and read an article, take a course, attend an in-person learning event, make time for learning. And at the end of January of 2020, I had successfully completed 365 consecutive days of learning. Sometimes that learning was just a few minutes long and sometimes a few hours long, but most of the time, somewhere in between. After every learning experience, I shared a post to our internal social network, which we at Kraft Heinz call the Ketchup, because of course, we make ketchup. And just to give you a sense for how many people were using that app, 66% of our salaried employees at the time had downloaded the Ketchup. I started to invite others from across the organization to learn with me. Read an article, let's discuss it. Take a course, let's discuss that. Take a picture of us learning together and share it to the organization. Post it on that social media network. So it was important to see leaders visibly learning. The campaign allowed myself and senior leaders, like my friend in the middle, who's the president of our international zone, to model how to make time for learning. And as time went by, I saw a few people catching on, just like social media. They liked my posts, They used the hashtags. They shared their own learning experiences in their own posts. And it started to feel like there was a movement, a learning movement starting. Just so you understand how I structured the posts that I made every day during my year of learning, there were a couple important elements. First, the hashtags, learn like an owner. Every day, referring back to that value proposition I shared with you, wanting to encourage people to seek out high impact learning experiences, to commit to learning something new every day, and to encourage other people to do the same. And somewhere in the body of that post, I included that hashtag, make time for learning. I also highlighted what day it was. It was a 365-day journey, even though I didn't really tell people for weeks what I was doing and that I was going to do it for a year. But I wanted to point out that this was something I was doing every day. And then finally, sharing the time that I spent. I wanted to share that you only need a few minutes to meet your learning commitment. So you see in these two situations, 15 minutes, because everyone's day is packed. Everyone's life is full. Learning time between 1 and 15 minutes. Sometimes it was longer, but consistently at least 15 minutes. Over 365 days of this journey, I tracked just under 15,000 minutes of learning. And you can see in this slide the breakdown of the time spent. And it's interesting because this happened in 2019, pre-COVID. Half the time I spent were in live learning sessions. I spent a fair amount of time taking LinkedIn Learning courses and then reading articles and books from the Harvard Business Review and other sources. We had custom courses we were creating at Kraft Heinz. I took those. I listened to podcasts. This was how I spent my time. And this word cloud shows what I spent my time learning. So you can see the topics that I covered, including the top 3: leadership, workplace culture, and performance. Not surprising given where I sit in the organization. But of course, this was not about me. Although my learning commitment was transformative to me and my life, this was about our learners. And so although for the first 100 days of this year, I was mostly learning and posting alone, something delightful happened on the 100th day. On that day, I saw a tipping point, a series of posts from my colleagues showing what they were learning on that Friday. Someone taking a course about having difficult conversations, someone wanting to show they wanted to be learner of the month. Really exciting to see people sharing their own personal lunch and learns. And then a colleague of mine shared that she was going to make her own learning commitment for 100 days, and then a second one. Before the year ended, it was clear that the movement needed to expand. So we, at the beginning of September of that same year, launched a global campaign, Learn Like an Owner, to promote the culture of learning at Kraft Heinz, to challenge employees to commit to learning, to champion those who were already learning, and leverage leadership support to encourage participation. As part of the launch, we gave individuals 4 options: bronze, silver, gold, and freestyle. You can see on the slide that we really wanted to say it just takes 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to make it really accessible. 500 Kraft Heinz employees made a learning commitment in Q4 of that year, completing a total of 3,000 hours of learning in 4 months. Our chief people officer and our CEO made learning commitments, and they encouraged all of the leaders across the organization to do the same. We selected the top learners from that group and brought them together for a day in Chicago at our headquarters to gather feedback and provide them with bonus professional development. They became our very first Learn Like an Owner ambassadors, champions for learning across the company. They shared their enthusiasm for learning and continue to be vocal culture carriers. Then in Q1 of 2020, we launched a 2020 version of this campaign, and by year end, we more than doubled the number of employee commitments from the previous year. We added a people manager pledge, more than 400 people managers signing pledges to support their direct reports in making time for learning. We launched a speaker series, inviting thought leaders to share actionable information, because at this point, we were just starting the COVID era, and we wanted to help employees through the difficult times when we were all different places across the world sheltering in place. That year, at the end of the year, we launched our very first Ownerversity Day. 24 hours of learning designed to bring the organization together around one theme. We had 4,000 employees participate in sessions available to learners in their local time zone around the clock. Momentum continues to grow, as does our learning culture. At the end of last year, we had our second Ownerversity Day. Again, 24 hours of learning focused on topics like embracing and impacting change, fostering creativity, design thinking, and living our company values. Over 7,000 employees participated. It may be also notable that during my year of learning, I wrote a list of 365 things I learned from 365 days of learning. I'll share some of those things with you in a moment. Those lessons inspired my new book, Let's Learn Our Way Through It, Shall We? Created to encourage others to commit to their own personal and professional learning journeys. So that's the story of the Kraft Heinz transformation. So what are the takeaways for you? What are the steps to take if you are trying to transform yourself and your organization into lifelong learners and create a powerful and functional learning culture? There are 7 steps I want to share with you. I call them the 7 steps of learning transformation. We'll go through them now. First, embrace the value proposition. Take ownership of your own learning and development, knowing the benefit will come to you as you execute your current roles with excellence, accelerate your learning curves, and grow great careers. And number 2 of the 365 things that I learned from my year of learning is that this always requires us to start before we are ready. There's a need to believe that learning is good and useful, and there's no time like the present to develop a strong learning culture. Next, commit to learn like an owner. You make the commitment. You seek out high impact learning experiences, commit to learning something new every day, and encourage others to do the same. Everyone needs to contribute to a culture of learning. There are so many doors through which we can find information and learning that can help as we aim to continuously increase our impact and become more effective leaders and humans. And number 4 of the 365 things I learned during my year of learning is that it's okay to make a quiet commitment. This learning project is public now, and I started sharing what I was doing on the very first day, but mostly to hold myself accountable. It didn't become so public until a few months later when colleagues saw what I was doing and decided to join me. There is power in taking that leadership role first and then bringing others along when you have some momentum and conviction around your actions and your story. Once you make that commitment, there are a few more things you need to do. You'll need to identify your trusted sources of learning. A vibrant learning culture is based on the intake of new ideas, whatever their source. For example, industry reports and research can provide valuable information. So find a few sources that you trust and dig in when they become available. You'll need to determine your searching and learning style, and you do that by using your life. The things that are happening in your day and in your life can and should be the motivation for the topics and skills and capabilities on which you should focus your learning. When you experiment with different searching mechanisms, you'll be able to figure out the next thing to do, which is reflect on and share what you are learning. Taking the time to reflect helps you apply your learning in different contexts. Almost as valuable as the time spent learning is the time you take to pause and think about what you learned and how it can be applied within the context of your whatever challenge you're facing or areas of development. You'll need to determine what to practice and what to keep. As you practice, you can see what works and what doesn't. Keep what works and get rid of the rest. And as you are practicing, embrace the success cycle. Try, fail, learn, succeed, repeat as many times as it takes. And finally, apply your learning habit to something specific. Starting by learning something new every day is important, but figuring out a way to go from curious to competent will help you grow a great career. So now what? Those are the 7 steps of learning transformation. I can spend hours sharing the lessons that I learned during my journeys of leading personal and professional learning transformation, but I'll leave you with this last lesson. If you are facing a challenge, learn your way through it. In both personal and professional situations, the transformative superpower of learning can help you. Aprendamos nuestro camino a través de él. ¿De acuerdo? Let's learn our way through it. Shall we? Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, ahora sí tenemos que hacer el cambio porque estuvimos hasta este momento en una sala plenaria, todos en común, y les recuerdo que van a tener que elegir entre las 3 salas disponibles. A las 11:30 de Argentina, a las 9:30 de Colombia y México, y a las 16:30 de España. Vamos a reiniciar en 2 minutitos. Va a estar Oscar Dalmau, gerente de Unión Consorcio Formación, y José Luis Alonso, profesor de la Universidad de Mondragón, moderando sobre Learnability y desarrollo de hábitos de aprendizaje en los equipos. Guillermo Scorza y Silvina Greci, por otra parte, profesores de la Universidad Blas Pascal, van a estar moderando sobre upskilling y reskilling con foco en soft skills, marcos de referencias y modelos de diseño didáctico, pedagógico y comunicacional. Y por otra parte, Iván Tapia, fundador de Cocolisto, moderando sobre comunicar, conectar a través del juego. Cambiamos cada uno a la sala de la presentación que más le interese y nos vemos en un ratito.